Hello and welcome back to episode 4 of Premier League Primetime Show. We are back with the usual crew, Jose, Sears, and Andre. How are all three of you doing today?
Amazing, Davis. How are you?
I'm great myself, and the other two. How are you two doing?
I'm great, David. Thank you.
All right. And
Yeah,
Andre, what
good.
about you?
No, yeah, good. Arsenal were terrible, so yeah, I'm doing good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say terrible, but okay.
Yeah, and we'll get more into that, but let's not take away from the focus that we again for the third successive show we have just another absolutely fantastic guest. In my opinion, one of the coolest around. Carson, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Davis. United won, so we're having a great week so far.
Yeah, and I'm sure Jose and feels probably the relatively the same way. Anyways, we got the usual to get through, so let's get right into it. So, and actually, the very first game of this past weekend was Brighton against Manchester United, where Manchester United narrowly beat Brighton by 3 goals to 2, with goals scored by Marcus Rashford, an own goal by Lewis Dunk, and of course, that controversial penalty from Bruno Fernandes at the very, very, very death of the match. And Brighton got their goals through a penalty from Neil Mopai, who I know Sirius has very, very fond memories of, and Solly March in 90+4. Carson, starting with you, what did you make of this game?
Well, I think it was poor from United the entire game, and we definitely did not deserve to win, and that's the biggest part. I mean, you can't go into the match with an out of form David De Gea and a crappy back line and think you're gonna stomp on Brighton and you nearly come away with it. That's the issue that Ole is facing week in and week out, and it needs to change from the top. And I think that starts with Dean Henderson in goal every week in the Premier League.
Good analysis there from Carson. But quick question, when looking at the goals, were any of them really David De Gea's fault, though? Were they not just due to bad defending, to be honest with you?
I think the defense needs to start from the goalie. And I think at the end of the day, the header from March, it really there's not much he can do there. But I mean, he is all the way across goal, maybe coming across a little bit quicker as the cross comes in. But I just don't think De Gea is up to scratch anymore. He doesn't captain his defense well, and that's where it needs to start. So.
All right. Well said there from Carson and Jose. Let's go to you. What did you make of this game? Do you share similar views as Carson? Different? What do you have to say?
Well, I disagree. I think that De Gea was definitely not one of the worst players on the pitch that day. I think Wan-Bissaka was mainly at fault for at least 2 of the goals. Pogba had a terrible game. I don't think either of them are actually fit, nor should they be starting. I think both of them should have gone off at halftime, and I think Ole is mainly to blame for that. But I think that sometimes when you're a big team, you play badly, but you still get a result. That's part of being a big team, and I think it shows that something good may be coming from Manchester United in the future with a better performance. But we were definitely lucky. Brighton were definitely the better team, but definitely happy to come away with the win at the end.
Yeah, and Jose just puts it very well there. And to be honest with you, and I'll just give my opinion. Yeah, I agree 100% with Carson and Jose. Both of them were spot on. Manchester United were very, very poor. Again, yes, they got the win, but through a very, very controversial Bruno Fernandes penalty, of course. And overall, just another really, really unconvincing performance from Manchester United, and this really, really shows, just really how desperately they need to get, new faces and new bodies in, and I again, like I said about Crystal Palace and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and he really doesn't have the proper tools to succeed, and honestly, and the fact how he still has a lot of deadwood just again doesn't really help him. Moving on into the next game, Sears. Everton went to Selhurst Park and they beat Crystal Palace by 2 goals to 1. Goals courtesy of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who's had a flying start to the season, and their main Brazilian talisman, Richarlison, with a penalty right before halftime. And Crystal Palace scoring through Kouyaté. Sirius, what did you make of this game?
Everton are looking like a really good side, to be honest. They've won 3 games. They've also won 2 games in the EFL Cup. So, they're looking promising. I think they could definitely try to get top 6. I think that should be Ancelotti's aim. They have a bunch of new signings, of course. Rodriguez. I think it's going to be a good season for them.
Yeah, and again, I think he just puts that there perfectly because, to be honest with you, if you take their summer signings out of it, I think Everton would just be back where they usually are, just like a mid-table-ish club. But these 3 signings, these 3 top quality signings, of course, there could be debate whether someone says Doucouré is a top player, but in my opinion, I think he's a very, very solid midfielder. And then of course you bring in 2 well-known players across Europe and well thought of, James Rodriguez and Allen, their late 20s. But I think just bringing them in just really makes everybody just step up to their level. And yeah, I think Everton are done very well this season. And yeah, I think Sears puts it there perfectly. That should definitely be a goal for Ancelotti this season. The next game, Andre, coming over to you, the game that I think none of us would have expected. West Brom hosted Chelsea, and before you know it, they were down by 3-0 at halftime, and Chelsea coming back. For West Brom, goals courtesy of 2 goals from Callum Robinson, who they acquired from Sheffield United this summer, and their central defender Kyle Bartley. And for Chelsea, goals from Frank Lampard's boy Mason Mount, Callum Hudson-Odoi, and Tammy Abraham, all 3 academy kids. Andre, what do you make of this game here?
It'd be fun to analyze, but I think it'd be more interesting to just go into what this means for Chelsea going forward. Obviously, we saw some defensive issues, and we have all those new signings, but it just proves that their academy still has certain quality players that have been brought up. So when we saw all those players signed, all 7 of them, we said it'd be stupid. I think Jose said this, that they need to be competing for City for the title with the squad they have now. They should have title ambitions. So after what we've seen as a rocky start, I just wanted to ask everybody: do we still see Chelsea as a title contender, just one by one?
No, absolutely not.
I think they finished 4th. I think they finished around 4th.
Yeah, I think their defense is nowhere near good enough to be title contenders anymore.
And it's just kind of funny to see. I mean, and of course I'm not gonna just get on him just for this game and say, oh, he's just not a good player. But I mean, they brought Thiago Silva in to shore up that defense. But one of the goals was just absolutely shocking defending from Chelsea, and it really shows. And apparently they're now even looking at another transfer, and they're looking at Declan Rice now. But I mean, there's no way Abramovich can just stump up the cash. He's gonna have to sell first. He's gonna have to clear players out of the club. And for me, I don't think they'll get Declan Rice this window. Maybe January next summer or whatnot. But I mean, it really just shows. And I think and you're seeing a Chelsea side without their new goalkeeper Edouard Mendy. But even with him, it just really shows how bang average of a side Chelsea are if we really think about it. Even with all these new players, and they like shiny new and Havertz and Timo Werner and all that, it really shows how bang average of a team they can be. And to be honest with you, that's really disappointing from Chelsea.
There's 2 ways to look at that. There's 2 ways to look at that match. They've started off slow and they've conceded 3, or they're a young side. They've started off slow but have had the quality to bounce back in their academy. So you're clearly looking at it from the average point that they've definitely had a slow start to that game. They weren't switched on. We saw that in Thiago Silva, which is weird because it was a debut. But then we also saw, even though the 3rd goal was a little controversial with a handball, that they had the quality to bounce back, which I didn't think they would. One more thing. West Brom, also incredibly strong. I hope we see more of that West Brom than the West Brom we saw before.
Agreed.
West Brom have to be given credit. I said before the match they'd have to show us something completely new to have a shot at this, and they absolutely did.
Yeah, and keep in mind they did it without their main left back Kieran Gibbs, who was suspended against Everton last week with a little scuffle between him and James Rodriguez. And it just shows. I think all of us at the beginning of the year were probably betting on West Brom going down. But it seems, they the fact that they got even a point out of it. Yeah, it's disappointing they didn't get the win. But to be honest with you, it shows some signs of promise. To be honest with you. And that maybe there is hope for them, whether they actually turn into relatively decent side or they just become the Norwich City of last year, where you see just like last year when you saw when they beat Man City last year, and everybody went off about how Timo Pukki was amazing and Norwich were amazing, but it proved that they weren't. But yeah, if this is the West Brom side we're going to see throughout the season, then I think I have great hopes for them personally. And I think they'll do okay this season. I think they'll survive and avoid relegation. And going into the next game, Jose, Southampton went to Burnley into Turf Moor, and they got a victory by 1-0. Of course, you could guess who. In the 6th minute, Danny Ings strikes yet again for Southampton. Jose, what did you make of this game?
Oh, well, Danny Ings shows up again. I mean, he's by the start he's had the season, he's proving that he's not just a one-season wonder in the Premier League, which is good for him, and it's good for Southampton too. But mainly this game was just an early goal from Danny Ings, and then Southampton defended. So, I mean, even possession, even shots, even touches, even passes, all even, but just better defense from Southampton.
And yeah, Jose puts it very well put there. And I mean, as soon as they got the goal, Southampton, I noticed that whenever for the most part, whenever Burnley were around the edge of the box, Southampton were just so good defensively, and they stayed compact through the middle. Players like Romeu really just being Romeu and being that number 6 that we all know he can be. He was very effective in that game for me. He was, in my opinion, he was one of the standout players, whether people agree with me or not. I thought he was very, very good. And overall, I think Southampton defensively that game looked very, very good that game. And yeah, I think Jose just puts it very well there. Pretty easy, pretty standard performance there from Southampton. And it's disappointing for Burnley. Moving into the next game, Carson, Leeds United went to Bramall Lane, the home of Sheffield United, and they narrowly squeezed out a 1-0 victory due to a late Patrick Bamford header in the 88th minute. Carson, what did you make of this game?
I think it was clearly a goalkeeping masterclass from both sides. Ramsdale and Meslier played out of their minds all game, stopping great efforts from Lundstrom. I know Patrick Bamford had a couple great efforts. So I think at the end of the day, it could have ended as a draw. Of course, Bamford is in red-hot form, so he found a way through. And I think this Leeds team is one to be feared. They went to Liverpool and scored 3. They won last week 4-3, and they've taken another game away. So I think this Leeds team is one to watch out for, like this Sheffield United of last season, coming up from the Championship and looking to break into the top half of the table.
Yeah, and Carson puts it very, very, very well there. And it was more or less just like an attacking masterclass from both sides, and who could get that goal was what both teams were looking for. And Leeds United, yet again, they get another victory. And to be honest with you, and people have now started to question Sheffield United, whether it's just in terms of whether they can replicate form from from last season. They've questioned, whether Ramsdale can be as good as Dean Henderson, because let's face it, the reason why Sheffield United were as good as they were last season was because of how good Dean Henderson was. Yes, they had some players, but Dean Henderson was just such a big part of that team. And hopefully Aaron Ramsdale can live up to that, in my opinion, that massive, 22 million pound price tag. And if you think about it, any player from the championship, unless if you're clearly a world-class player, any price that's like 22 million plus, that's really, really expensive. I mean, you just think of some of the players that have come from the championship and have signed. I mean, Callum Wilson, I think it was around like 20 million pounds, I think. That's just one example of several. I think Carson put it there perfectly. Moving into the next game, and I know Andre is very happy about this result. Tottenham hosted Newcastle, and Tottenham scored early through Lucas Moura, but then, as Andre has told me, a very, very legitimate penalty call in very, very late in added time, and it was converted by none other than Callum Wilson. Andre, what do you have to say about this game, and how happy were you with that Eric Dyer penalty call?
Obviously the result was tough to take just because I thought the performance was actually really solid. I thought it was one of the better performances under the Mourinho era. There was definitely some things to be excited about. I guess going to the elephant in the room, the handball. I don't know. Truly, I don't know, because there are a lot of opinions on the handball rule. We've had, how many handballs did we have this weekend? Like 6, 7 maybe out of all the matches.
Yeah, there were a lot.
I think
Crazy how many
we were directly the result of the new rule.
Yeah, exactly. So it's so, we heard the Newcastle manager. He admitted, I don't think the handball call was correct, but we benefited off it, so it's fine. But yeah, it's just I don't know how well it's being judged off what the written law is. I know I'm not sounding too coherent right now. Because we saw the Havertz handball, that was fine. Granted, his hand was right here. We saw the Man United one last week against Lindelof, I think it was. That was ruled penalty. We saw countless amount of handballs that are just so, there's no consistency. We don't know what's going to happen. Truly, we don't. So I don't know. I don't personally. I don't know. I'm just happy with the way we played. In terms of result, it was disappointing, but that's VAR. We've been screwed over a bunch of times, so it's fine.
And to be honest with you, I think again, and credit to Andre. I mean, he could have just said no, just not good enough. But I think he took it very well there, in terms of how level-headed and how unbiased that analyzation was. And to be honest with you, yeah, I'd be disappointed if I were a Spurs fan, because they were bound to win that game. Of course, Gareth Bale watching in the stands, and I'm sure he probably wasn't happy with that either.
Actually, real quick, if you want, there's it's a compilation of pictures from Gareth Bale in the stands watching Real Madrid play, and then him watching on the stands watching.
I've seen that. It really just shows, how unhappy he was there, and how happy he is now to be back. I think Bale's this is going to be like a huge revival in his career, in my opinion. All the best wishes to Gareth Bale for the season. Hopefully this hashtag Baleback can be something Spurs fans can look back onto, whether he stays permanently or whether he goes back. They can just think to themselves, genius. Daniel Levy, stay forever. Of course, if I was Spurs fan, I wouldn't want that for my life. But yeah. Anyways, going into the next game, and Jose, Leicester City went to the Etihad Stadium, where they absolutely blew and ripped apart Manchester City as they destroyed Man City and become the first team to put 5 goals past Pep Guardiola's team, any of his teams, whether it's Bayern, Barcelona, etc. An early goal, which was an absolute screamer from Riyad Mahrez, and then Jamie Vardy, as Jamie Vardy always does. He scored a hat trick, becoming the second player to ever score a hat trick against a Guardiola team. The only 2 players being Lionel Messi in the Champions League back in 2016, where Barca won by 4-0. And Jamie Vardy has already done it before, and now he's just done it again. And then another beautiful goal from James Maddison, Nathan Ake scoring on his debut with a header, and Yuri Tielemans scoring from the spot. Jose, what do you make of this absolutely crazy game?
Well, it was interesting. It was interesting watching Pep's press conference after the game, or not press conference, but he was interviewed after the game on the pitch, and the reporter asked him, "So, Pep, how are you gonna make these games go away where teams just sit back, play really deep, and counterattack you?" And he basically said, "Well, I mean, they happen every once in a while, so it's not that big of a deal." And it's like he needs to sort this out, otherwise he's not gonna be able to challenge Liverpool again. So it's the type of match that I said at the beginning of the season wouldn't go away for him because he hasn't figured it out yet. And because he hasn't got the proper center backs to do that, obviously, the proper whole defense to do that, obviously, as it showed today with them giving away 3 penalties. And even Pep said, you give away 3 penalties, you're not going to win the game.
I think the first part of what Jose said, I think was spot on in terms of just, I think one thing about Pep Guardiola is that if they go a goal down and they're chasing a game, there really isn't really like a change of attack or change of plan. It's still just a 4-3-3, tiki-taka. And to be honest with you, if you're a goal down and I'm a coach, there's no chance I'm just going to be, just saying, oh, just, tiki-taka, just, just possess the ball. And at the end of the game, we could say, oh, we had more possession because, at the end of the day, possession really doesn't matter. And what matters is the amount of goals you score. And for me, and this kind of tendency from Guardiola very, very much reminds me of former Chelsea manager Maurizio Sarri when he was at Chelsea. And there was just so many times, so many games you'd see, Chelsea go a goal down and it was just sideways, backwards. And it was just same old kind of thing. And again, for the City fans who might be thinking, hey, how dare you compare Sarri to Pep Guardiola? I'm not comparing those 2 at all. I mean those 2 are just streets apart in every single way, shape, and form. But it's something very similar that did happen, and as Jose said about the thing with hitting teams on the break, that was just spot on. I mean, Manchester United literally did it to City 3 times, all 3 times that we beat City.
So did Wolves.
What is it?
And so did Wolves twice.
Yep. Exactly. And Norwich as well last season. I mean, there are just so many games where City just come up and they've just disappointed. And again, and what's ironic is that Manchester City and Pep Guardiola has spent 400 million pounds due to the inevitable signing of highly rated Benfica center back Ruben Diaz, who I personally think he's a great player, and Nicolas Otamendi going the other way. He will now have spent around 400 million pounds on defenders alone, and to be honest with you, I mean, by their current performances, I mean, maybe he might need to spend a little more on that back line. I thought Ake did okay. Garcia was poor. Walker was poor. Mundy was poor. I mean, for me, Ederson really couldn't do anything about any of the goals he was facing. I mean, for me, the only one who, for me, would can walk should, if I were a City fan, for me, the only way or the only person who I deem acceptable to walk away with their head up is Ake for me. I mean, I feel most sorry for him, being a new guy being put into that City back line.
They did sign Ruben Diaz from they traded him for Otamendi from Benfica.
Yep.
Was it announced yet?
Yeah, it's here we go, I believe.
Yeah, the transfer Don himself, Fabrizio Romano, did say, did announce that it would be a here we go for Ruben Diaz. And of course, if Manchester City, then looking at their center backs, say the most ideal pairing would be Aymeric Laporte and Ruben Diaz. And yeah, and again, and if you think about it, Manchester City were missing a lot of players. The defense wasn't just a man issue. They were missing players in midfield, and they don't have a striker. Let's keep in mind, Sergio Aguero still out injured. Gabriel Jesus. I'm not sure what happened to him, but I think he got injured. I think he did, but I don't know, the specific injury he got. I'll have to look that up and find that out later. But yeah, what is it?
Oh yeah, no, you can finish your thought. I'll go after.
No, it's fine. But yeah, and again, like Chelsea, like I said about Chelsea, I'll say the same thing about Man City. I mean, it's games like this that really shows that. No, Man City aren't a bang average team, but they certainly aren't as bang average as Chelsea, but you'll see this so many times with Manchester City. You'll just get these games and really see how bang average they can be sometimes. And this is far from the best Manchester City we've seen, because the best Manchester City,
Probably the worst.
Them at their best, would have pummeled Leicester City. Andre, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, you said probably one of the average performances, but I would say one of the worst we've seen under Guardiola's City. But real quick, this is a little bit of banter, but seeing that City have given away 3 penalties in one match, and seeing how United.
Oh gosh, I already know what you're gonna say. I already know what
how
you're gonna
they
say.
play. Are you guys pretty optimistic about the Manchester Derby? Because you guys are looking great. Like Fernandez had Fernandez.
No, okay, yeah.
You can be pretty optimistic. Those pens are gonna happen.
Oh, geez, yeah.
They're gonna happen.
Here we go with the Bruno Fernandes again. But at least Bruno Fernandes isn't as traded as isn't as one-dimensional as the Italian Mark Noble is for Chelsea. Anyways, moving into the next game, Sirius. Wolves went to West Ham expecting to batter West Ham, but another shocking result. West Ham battered Wolves, and they deservedly won by 4-0. Goals courtesy of Jerry Bowen with a brace, Raul Jimenez own goal, and Sebastian Haller in the 93rd minute. Sirius, what did you make of this rampant and dominant performance by West Ham?
I thought it was it was a surprising result for sure. Uncoincidentally, Moyes wasn't, coaching that day because, he had COVID. So, that's probably why they won, to be honest. Besides that, they put on a great performance. Actually, against us last weekend, they weren't bad also. We didn't really deserve the win that day. So, respect to them.
Yeah, Sirius puts it there perfectly. And as he said, West Ham have been looking, fairly good for the past 2 weeks. Undeservedly losing to Arsenal by 2-1, and then running Wolves rampant. Honestly, and hey, who knows? Maybe they'll see how good this assistant coach is doing, and they'll say, David, you're out the door. Because this guy's been doing so well, and looking at your history, there's no way heck we're going to be finishing above the relegation zone with your kind of management skills. Moving into the games that were played today, Carson, Aston Villa went to Craven Cottage and they beat Fulham convincingly by 3-0. Goals scored, of course, one you could guess it, Jack Grealish early in the 4th minute. Connor Hourihan in the 15th minute, and their big man center back Tyrone Mings, who he's a good player, but I'm very tired of seeing him being linked with Manchester United, and I really don't want Tyrone Mings. He's a good player, but this is just another Brexit FC kind of signing. And again, as I like the guy, I think he's a good player, not United level. Anyways, getting back on track, Carson, what did you make of this dominant performance from Villa?
I think that Jack Grealish took the game over. At the end of the day, he was cutting the defense apart, making runs, making passes, and he breaks the deadlock in the 4th minute early with a great volley. He sets up the 2nd and the 3rd goals, and this is really his team. He brought him up from the Championship. They staved off relegation. And at the end of the day, if they lose Jack Grealish, they're going to be a very, very poor side. He's holding this team together with tape and glue. But other than that, I think the interplay between Hourihan and Grealish was absolutely magnificent. The small touch passes and the sweeping balls were perfect, and there was really, really nothing that Fulham could do. It was just a completely dominant performance all the way through.
Yeah, Carson puts it there perfectly. But to one thing Carson has just said, if they lose Jack Grealish, well, for anyone who, of course, doesn't know, it's been, I think around a month it's been. But Jack Grealish did sign a new 5-year deal at Aston Villa. So he will be going absolutely nowhere. And he will be there for the long-term future, and I think that is a massive victory for Aston Villa to really keep a player of that quality. And I think he signed that contract knowing that there'd be no way he'd be able to move to Manchester City, Manchester United, maybe even to Chelsea and Arsenal, Wolves, Leeds, whoever, without paying the premium or as I call it, without paying the Harry Maguire, aka the £80 million benchmark. And lastly, going to the final game, and the last game also played today. Serious, Arsenal traveled to Anfield, and they were beaten very convincingly by Liverpool. Goals coming in, of course, from Sadio Mane. Not that big of a surprise. And Andrew Robertson, mid first half, and then the new boy off the bench, Diogo Jota has his Liverpool as his goal account in a Liverpool shirt up and running, and for Arsenal, Alexander Lacazette again coming up in a big game and scoring early for Arsenal, and just giving a quick note here, again, Lacazette shows how important he is to this Arsenal side, especially in the big games. One thing that is a little ironic for me is that Lacazette, not that he goes MIA in the smaller games, but he's not as useful in the smaller games. But when it's like the North London Derby or Liverpool or a big team, Lacazette always comes up with the big man performance, and he really just try. Some could say that Lacazette was a reason why Arsenal actually lost that game, as he missed a very, very glaring golden opportunity. And I can already see Andre is crying with sadness about that result from today. Sirius, what did you make of Liverpool's rampant performance against the Gunners?
Yeah, honestly, I'm not too disappointed about it. Obviously we didn't play great, but it's Liverpool at home. Not a lot you can do. In terms of like the changes made, I don't agree with David Luiz starting. It is what it is. I know Arteta want to go for experience, but I thought Gabriel, was good first 2 starts, so he could have played. Lacazette, he should have made it, that's for sure. it could have been 2-2. But that's how football is. So we just have to keep going. In terms of the referee decisions, I think it's stupid. Like we would have lost anyways. I know I've seen a lot of Arsenal fans complain, but we just have to go on to the next.
Yeah, and I think Sears, puts that perfectly, and especially, the moment I saw the starting 11, for me, I was already asking a lot of questions. When I saw David Luiz, or not even David Luiz, but when I saw Gabriel was on the bench and El Neni was starting, it made me just go, huh? Like, what's going on here? Like, you're taking the center back who's been unbelievably immense for you, and yes, I know people will say, oh, it's just Fulham, oh, it's just West Ham, but that's the kind of center back Arsenal have just been needing for so long, and you're going to take that player who's full of confidence and energy. Unless something happened with fitness or behind the scenes that nobody knows. I grew serious. I really didn't understand why he was benched either. And yeah, I didn't really get that. But one thing I do want to point about that game is that I think, and as highly as I rate, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Trent Alexander-Arnold for me was phenomenal in that game. He was creating so many chances. He was getting shots off. He was really doing so well getting forward in the attack. And for me, those two always get compared. But I've always said I've never ever been biased about this one. When it comes to going forward, Wan-Bissaka just he really isn't at Trent Alexander-Arnold's level, and we saw how good he was today. He was immense going forward today. Hopefully that part of his game can get better for Wan-Bissaka. Anyways, yeah.
I don't know. In terms of like what Sirius said, I give Arsenal their credit. They broke Liverpool's line a couple times really well,
Definitely.
which is why I was able to have those two chances.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But other than that, I really disagree with I guess the tactics that were implemented. And for me for a top six side to say it's Liverpool at home when there are no fans in the stadium, that Anfield's a different place. It's not really the same Liverpool at home when
That's
there's no
a very
fans.
good point, and I 100% agree with that.
So for a top six side to say it's Liverpool at home, what can you do? It shows for me what is a lack of ambition. They scraped by West Ham. They were incredible. But for me, Arteta, I hope he has a good project, but they still have a long way to go. For us to praise what Arsenal have done in the 3 games, for me is preposterous, because I think they still have a long way to go. For me, they're a side that has failed to compete in the league, but is doing well in the domestic tournaments and other cups aside. So if that's what for me is Arsenal right now. So
putting El Neni instead of Ceballos. When Ceballos came on, he created so many chances. That could have definitely changed the game. I get what Andre is saying. I think maybe if Ceballos, played the first half, some things could have been different. He definitely went defensive with El Neni and Xhaka, and that's never going to really work out offensively.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. 100%. And I think everything Andre is saying, and yes, we know he's a Tottenham fan. I think everything he's saying is just totally spot on, to be honest with you. And taking a look at this game, I've said this from the beginning. From the very beginning, I really don't think Arteta wants to just park the bus and play counter-attacking football because let's face it, he's playing 5 at the back. And one thing that as a Man fan that really does get on my nerves is that whenever Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, as we've seen him in the past, right? He's sometimes played his 3-5 in the back, his 5-3-2, 3-5-2, whatever you want to call it. And everybody says, oh, it's Ole parking the bus and hitting teams on the break. But we've seen this now so many times from Arteta playing his 3-4-3 system, and everybody says, "Oh, it's an Arteta masterclass." He's doing the same old thing. And to be honest, I'm not even trying to be biased here. But for me, it's really just, it's the same thing, to be honest with you. That's kind of that's how Arsenal scored their goal in the first place. They hit Liverpool on the break. That's kind of what they were looking to do to Liverpool. And for me, and I think Mikel Arteta, I still think he's hoping and praying he can get in. Whether it's Thomas Partey from Atletico Madrid or it's Hossam Aouar. I probably said that wrong, but I'll throw my hands up. I say names wrong all the time. Hossam Aouar of Lyon. They're looking to bring in. He's hoping to getting one of those. Do I think it will happen? I think they will bring in. I think they'll probably get Aouar. And they definitely need another quality midfielder, whether it's playing with Dani Ceballos or Granit Xhaka. But yeah, and I was very confused why Elneny was thrown into this game. I mean, I probably would have even thrown in Joe Willock if he was even fit. I don't know what's with Joe Willock, but yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree, Davis. Like we all before the game said that this is going to be exciting because Arsenal can pose a threat to Liverpool. If they
exactly.
not at the game, kind of like Leeds did, I genuinely think it would have been a way better game. They would have had a shot, but instead I don't know why Arteta played the way he did. But I genuinely Arsenal could have posed something to Liverpool. I don't know why they went that way.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say, I think Arteta was uncharacteristically poor today. I thought that we already talked about his team choices were off all around everywhere, like defense and midfield.
And Willian too. I was going to say, sorry to interrupt, but
you think Willian too?
Well, I mean,
I'm
not saying Willian's a poor because I mean that'd just be such an unintelligent thing to say. I think Willian has brought great wonders into this Arsenal side. I think he's been doing brilliantly to be honest with you for the games he's been playing. But I mean, for me, I really don't understand. I always thought when they brought in Willian, I think I always thought he was going to be more of a rotational player. He's going to be the one mentoring all these youngsters. But hey, maybe this is like an early season kind of thing or whatnot. But whether it's something with Nicolas Pepe, but I mean, I've been expecting. I mean, for except for maybe for that Fulham game and the Carabao Cup game, I've been expecting Nicolas Pepe to be starting regularly in the league. I mean, for the money they spent on him, how important he is to Arsenal's system. And yeah, as good as Willian is or can be, I've just been kind of surprised why Nicolas Pepe hasn't been starting games. Sirius, do you think you could provide an explanation of maybe what Arteta's thinking here, or maybe his team selection, or what do you think he's thinking in terms of his team selection in the long run?
Obviously when Pepe came on, he didn't really do much, but I think next game he'll definitely get the start. To be honest, Willian, he's a bit of an inconsistent player. One game he could be man of the match, the next game he's just totally not there. So that's what's happened. I think Pepe he definitely needed a season. This season it's going to be the deciding factor to see if he really was worth the money or not.
Yeah, and I think he puts up perfectly. Anyways, and we spent so much time on Arsenal Liverpool, rightfully so. It's been such a big game. Anyways, and we're gonna move right along into part two, and of course, as always, we will look at Matchday 4, and the five of us will give you our predictions for this game. Let's starting off with the first game here. Chelsea against Crystal Palace. I mean, for me personally, I think it's really difficult to say. I think for Chelsea, if they play like how they did against West Brom in the first half, I think they're going to get annihilated by Palace. But I think for me, I think Chelsea will learn from their mistakes, and will and we'll get the victory with the quality that they have on the pitch. Carson, going to you. What do you think? What do you predict for this game?
I think it'll be pretty tight. At the end of the day, you really don't know in the Premier League, and at the end of the day, it's all going to come down to who makes more chances and who capitalizes. We clearly saw in the Leeds game the amount of chances that were created as opposed to the one goal. So most of these games are going to come down to the wire, and I think it'll end in a 0-0 draw. I really do.
All right, a very interesting approach here from Carson. Andre, what about you?
I I believe in Palace and their ambitions this season because I think it'll be a different side. But I think I was looking at it, and Chelsea have not lost a match against Palace since Antonio Conte was manager, I believe. So just looking at that history, I think I think Chelsea will win this one.
All right. And Sears, going to you. What are you thinking for this game?
I actually think it might be a tie, to be honest. It's a bit out there, could be wrong, but Crystal Palace has, they have 6 points, so I think they're doing decent, but could be out there, but we'll see.
And Jose, moving to you lastly, what are you thinking?
I think it'll be tight, and both teams will be good on defense. But I think it'll be a close, probably like a 2-1 win for Chelsea.
Okay, so a pretty mixed results. Some thinking a draw, some thinking a win, and a narrow win for Chelsea. Moving quickly into the next game, Everton and Brighton, and these two sides have just been so impressive. But again, I think Everton, again with their new additions and everything, as good as Brighton has been, as convincing as they have been for the last few games, I think Everton will just overpower them in quality. And yeah, I think Everton will come away with this one. Carson, what are you thinking for this game?
I think Everton come away 3-0 up. Richarlison, James Rodriguez, Alan, all their signings have been immense, and I think they are very, very dangerous. I think they're on the levels as the Everton sides with Lukaku, challenging for that top six, and I think this game will be a complete blowout in Everton's favor.
All right. Andre, moving to you.
Yeah, I really hope I'm starting to fall in love with Brighton. I think, with Tariq Lamptey on hot form, they have a solid midfield, they have solid attack. But at the end of the day, I think Everton will overpower them. I think Calvert-Lewin will have a great match this match. I think Everton will overpower them.
All right. Sirius, moving to you. Everton against Brighton.
I think it's gonna be Everton. What Carson said. I think it's gonna be a convincing win. I expect Calvert-Lewin to keep scoring. He's been really good so far.
Yeah, he's been impressive. Very, very, very impressive. And hopefully, all best wishes to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Hopefully he'll have a good season this year. And of course, I'm already seeing, the BS stories. Manchester United linked to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, £80 million move. I'm already seeing these stories, and it's already driving me nuts because it's, again, Brexit FC. It's driving me nuts. It really is. It's getting on my nerves. Jose, moving to you. Everton versus Brighton.
Well, as Andre said, he's fallen in love with Brighton. I think I've fallen in love with both teams. They've both been probably better than anyone has really predicted this season, and I think this game is gonna be a draw.
All right. Very interesting. From prediction from Jose. Mixed results from some. Actually, no. Pretty dominant with an Everton victory. Moving to the next game, Leeds United versus Manchester City. For me personally, Leeds United have been so impressive. As much as I hate to say, as a United fan, for me, I really don't like either of these two teams. Just because of the history we've had with both teams. I'm really not a fan, but Leeds United I think have been so good. And to be honest with you, people are gonna call me crazy, but I think for me, I think this will either end in a draw or I think if Man City played the way they did against Leicester, I think Leeds United will batter them, in not in terms of goals, but just in terms of chances and everything. I think this could either be a Leeds win or a draw, to be honest with you. Carson, moving to you.
Like you said, as much as I hate both of these teams, I think Leeds are very, very convincing if they are able to come away with any sort of draw or even like maybe a 1-0, 2-1 win. I think Patrick Bamford is in extremely hot form, and I think this Leeds team is very entertaining to watch. They don't have many big names. They've got Calvin Phillips, But at the end of the day, Man City's defense is absolutely horrific, and they have found no way to fix it. So I think Leeds come away with a tight win here.
Yeah. Again, if it's the same personnel as we see against Leicester, I mean, personally for me, I don't. The Man City for me have no chance if they defend, if they play like they do against Leicester. Andre, moving to you.
I think there is a case to be made, obviously, about Leeds' chances at this match. But for me, I don't think anyone wants to be the team that goes against Pep Guardiola after he's just had a massive loss.
Nah,
You don't want to be that. That makes he's going to
100%.
be on it. So in that respect, I'm going to give it to City, but I think it could be a very entertaining, high-scoring match. But I'm going to give it to City just because of the personnel
All right.
and Pep Guardiola's mentality.
All right. And I think and Andre means when the personnel are performing well and not like they have now for some time. Sirius, moving to you. What are you making of Leeds United against Manchester City?
I completely agree with Andre. I was going to say that, they just lost. Guardiola is not going to let them lose again like that. I think Leeds are promising, but I think Man City will get the win. They do have to fix their defense a lot. I know you personally, Davis, like Mendy, but I just don't think he's good enough for this team. Neither is Garcia, to be honest. So maybe they put Fernandinho at center back with Ake. We'll see what happens, but they need to fix something.
Yeah, I think everything he says is spot on. And for me, when it comes to Benjamin Mendy, I've always had somewhat of a soft spot for him, because and I think and as poor as he's been, I mean, this year and the season before, I don't think a single person here or any of our viewers can say when Manchester City we're scouting him and saw him at Monaco, I don't think a single viewer or any of us can say he wasn't a top left back, because I rated the guy. He was for me at that time, he was one of the best left backs in Europe, arguably the best, just in terms of how good he was at getting forward, and at the time he really seemed like a Pep Guardiola kind of outside back. And for me, the injuries have really hampered him. And to be honest with you, I feel sorry for him. I really do feel sorry for Benjamin Mendy. But yeah, and to be honest with you, and I think when you look at Mendy, if he hadn't gone all these injuries as he's gone, I think he could be a City legend at that left back position. And he could still be one of the best in the world if he hadn't gone all these injuries and lived up to his potential. And lastly, Jose, moving to you.
I also agree with Andre. I think it's just because Man City lost the game previously, they're gonna bounce back in this game. But I also think that it's like he said that there'd be a good possibility for a high-scoring match. So I'm excited to watch.
All right. Good analysis from Jose there. Moving into the next game, and probably a rather more boring game. And apologies to Newcastle and Burnley fans. But to be honest with you, I mean, I don't think anybody just looks at Newcastle and Burnley and is just thinking, oh, you know what? Newcastle and Burnley, that's a really entertaining game. I can't wait to watch this game. And to be honest with you, both managers really kind of have a somewhat similar approach to their tactics. For me, both of these teams are they're just so inconsistent. Especially Newcastle. Like 1 week you'll see them flying, and then the next week you'll just see them just being battered. Perfectly evident in Newcastle's first 2 games. Battered West Ham, then got battered by Brighton. And for me, I think with the quality, similar to what some of you were saying about City and Leeds, I think the quality Newcastle have will push them over the line. I think Newcastle will get the victory here. Carson, moving to you.
Like you said, I don't think a lot of people are going to be tuning into this one. It'll probably just go up on the scoreboard, and people will glance at it. Both these teams are sort of in the mid-range. I think Burnley might edge Newcastle as far as I think quality goes. I think Pope is great in goal, and at the end of the day, I think this is going to be a fairly boring game. It could end in a draw. It could end 2-0, 2-1. I just don't think anyone's going to take notice this week. So, it really doesn't matter the scoreline in the grand scheme of things. It could mean something for the relegation battle later on. But right now, I think it'll probably end in a draw or a close win for Burnley.
All right. Andre, moving to you.
Yeah. You consider what you guys said, that it's not going to be the most entertaining match, and then you look at at the quality of Nick Pope, like what was just mentioned,
Yeah,
and then you look
goalkeeper.
at
Definitely.
and then you look at the quality of Darlow in the last match against Tottenham. I think 10 saves, something like that. He got the most saves in the last couple seasons that's been done in the Premier League, like that.
Yeah, he's been
so you
very
look
good
at
as well.
Look at those two factors, the keepers and our entertainment thing. We might be looking at a 0-0 match. So I'll go 0-0 tie game.
All right. Sirius, moving to you.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tie game as well. Both have decent keepers. You never know with these two teams, so we'll see what happens.
And Jose, lastly, moving to you.
This will be a tight one. Both teams have been pretty good on defense in recent times. I would go probably with Burnley because they've gotten 2 losses out of 2 and they really need a result.
All right. Mixed predictions across the board. The next game, Leicester City host West Ham. And again, as good as West Ham were against Wolves, I mean, Leicester are just on a whole nother level for me. And even without key personnel such as Wilfred and Diddy, James Maddison not even playing the full 45. I mean the full game, whatnot. And I think Leicester City will just definitely come out victors in this one. I think anyone could bet on it. I think Jamie Vardy is going to score yet again for Leicester, just as they always have. And Carson, moving to you.
As good as West Ham were this week, I think Leicester are red hot right now. Clearly, they have broken into the top 6, and I think they're beginning to push some teams as far as mid-table sides like Arsenal, who are quite trash. I think at the end of the day, West Ham don't have performances like this one this week in and week out. As far as Leicester go, they have clearly shown they have quality on their side with players like Castagna coming in, Vardy. So I think it's going to be a big 3 or 4-0 win for Leicester.
All right. And Sirius, moving to you.
I think Leicester also going to get the win. I think it's going to be a close one, though. I think West Ham have been playing well recently. Not sure if Moyes is still going to manage. I think it depends on whether Moyes manages or not the score.
And Andre, moving to you next.
Yes, some gosh darn spot on points from. Sorry, what was his name again? The first guy, United fan.
Carson.
Sorry, I was wrong with it.
Trust me, we're all bad at names. We're all rubbish at names.
We are. Anyway, no, I think it'll be a good match. Both of them are coming off resounding victories, but I'll edge it to Leicester.
And Jose, lastly, moving to you.
I think this is an exciting one. Both teams scored a lot of goals last weekend. I think this will be a good one to watch, but I'll give it to Leicester as well.
All right, pretty unanimous across the board. And the next game, thankfully, the last one, or not the last one, the last boring game that we have to make a prediction for. And again, apologies going out to our Southampton and West Brom viewers. And it's again, and I literally say this game is the exact same thing for me as Newcastle and Burnley. Again, not a lot of people are going to be like, oh yes, I cannot wait to just see Southampton and West Brom just go at it, park the bus, and then see who can hit teams on the break. And for me, I think it depends what West Brom we see. If we see the West Brom that utterly dominated Chelsea that first half, I think West Brom will win this game. Absolutely zero problems, no issues. But if we see the West Brom that just capitulated in the second half, I think Southampton will win this game. It could very well be a draw. But I think Danny Ings, as he's been doing last season and this season, I think he'll just push Southampton over the line. Carson, moving to you.
Like you said, I think Danny Ings is going to take this game into his own hands. I think he's going to have at least 2 for Southampton. But the way that West Brom played this week, I think they're going to grab at least 2 themselves. I think it'll be an exciting game as far as the highlights go. I don't know how many people are going to watch it. But I think this will end 2-2 or maybe 3-2 to Southampton.
All right. Andre, moving to you.
Yeah. I think it'll be an exciting match too. I think you're looking at two sides. Even though both sides have history of sitting back, I think both of them will look at their quality and realize that they're even. So both teams should go at it. So I'm gonna edge it to Southampton just because their experience in the league and stuff. But I think it'll be a solid match.
Sirius, moving to you. What are you making in this game?
I think it's going to be a tie, to be honest. I think, Southampton, obviously, they have Danny Ings. I think West Brom are going to build off, that good performance last time. I think it's going to be a tie. It's also at 4 a.m., West Coast. I don't think any of us will be watching that game.
And Sirius has said it. I certainly won't be waking up for that. No, I'm joking. Hey, who knows? And Jose, moving to you.
I would edge this game to Southampton just because they showed such good defense last weekend, and I think Danny Ings could win it for them definitely.
All right, mostly pretty unanimous across the board. Some people saying draw, some people saying Southampton will edge it. Moving into the next game, I think just looking at this one, all pretty universal across the board. Fulham travel to the Molineux and they take on Wolves. Yes, Wolves are absolutely shocking against West Ham, but just seeing it's Fulham and seeing how they capitulated against Aston Villa and with all due respect to Aston Villa, as good as they've been, Aston Villa aren't really a titan of the Premier League. They're not. They're not like one of the best of the best. They're really not. And for me, if you just capitulate and fall apart against Villa like that, imagine going to a far better team in every single aspect in Wolves. And I think for me, Fulham, and with all due respect to Fulham, I think Fulham are just looking at this game being absolutely hopeless. And I think Wolves will just demolish them, in my opinion. Carson, moving to you.
I think the quality of Wolves is really going to show up against a poor Fulham side, who are most likely facing relegation this year. And I think this game is going to finish at least 2-0, if not more, on that behalf of Wolves.
Andre, moving to you.
Yeah, you look on paper and you just think, for me, how the hell are Fulham going to claim any points this season? It's just looking on paper, it's a tough one. It's tough to be a Fulham fan in the league right now. I would have no hope. So for me, I give it to Wolves. I'm sorry, Fulham.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I would have no hope for that as well. As Carson says a lot off camera, and I think Fulham will just full send themselves back to the championship. And Sirius, moving to you, Fulham against Wolves.
Yeah, I think Foles will definitely win. Fulham is just it's looking bad. Andre's right. I know they're owner apologized to their fans, but I think they're gonna get relegated. So I think Wolves will definitely win after being demolished by West Ham.
Yeah, and Jose, moving to you.
Well, I think a bit differently. I think that Fulham have shown their ability to score goals recently especially against Leeds. And for Wolves coming off of a 4-0 defeat, they're not going to have a great amount of confidence. I think Fulham do have a bit of a chance, but I'm not sure if they'll take it. I would still edge it to Wolves.
Nice.
All right. As I predicted even before we gave our own predictions, it's 100% unanimous across the board. We have 3 games left. And the first of this 3 is Sheffield United travel to as Andre would say, the best team in North London, to the Emirates, and they take on Arsenal. For me, as solid as Sheffield United can be, and at times, again, and just knowing Mikel Arteta, and just knowing who he is, I think he's really going to put a rocket up that up that Arsenal side, and he's going to say, that's not good enough, not acceptable. And the way you guys capitulated against Liverpool, even though it wasn't really a capitulation, but I don't think Arteta is the kind of guy who's just going to let that off lightly. I think he's a guy who will definitely give the hairdryer treatment for those poor kind of performances. I definitely think Arsenal will definitely take this one for me. Carson, moving to you.
As much as I dislike Arsenal, I think this will be a clear victory for Arsenal. I think they're going to handle the game well, and I think they're going to bounce back from a tough Liverpool game. I think they'll probably win by at least 2.
All right. Sirius, do you think your boys will take the W and will bounce back?
Yeah, I think for sure. I think there's going to be some changes to the lineup. I think Ceballos is going to go in there for El Neni. Played a really good game against Liverpool. I think Gabriel's going to come back. I think Pepe will come back too. Hopefully Pepe can do something if he starts. But besides that, I expect a win.
All right. And Andre, moving to you. Arsenal against Sheffield United.
Yeah, I give it to Arsenal. I'll give it to Arsenal. Actually, I didn't realize it before, but Liverpool and Arsenal play this Thursday for the EFL Cup, so they'll play again. So hopefully, yeah, I didn't even realize that. So hopefully Arsenal can regain their mojo, or if not, lose again and be able to re-center themselves and bounce back. But obviously not hopefully for me, but for their fans. Yeah, I'll give it to Arsenal.
Yeah, and Andre, that's interesting. I didn't even know they played Liverpool in the EFL Cup. Will we see another 5-5? Who knows? And lastly, Jose, moving to you, Arsenal against Sheffield United.
I'm actually going to go for another Arsenal loss here, because Sheffield United have not gotten any points at all yet in the Premier League, and they've had a tough time. And knowing Chris Wilder, I think he might pull out a result in this match.
Okay, and Jose just ended that game with pretty interesting prediction. Don't know whether it's biased or whatnot, but who cares?
That's very possible. I actually changed my opinion. I agree with Jose. He made some good points.
Oh no, Andre, come on! Are you saying that because of your beloved Spurs?
Very biased.
You also look at Sheffield United played really well on the attack against who was it?
Leeds.
Leeds. They had some bright moments. So now that I think about it, it'll be more even than I initially thought.
All right, Andre. And whether he's just saying what he's actually thinking, or whether his Tottenham heart's really getting to him. Second to the last game. What is it?
They haven't won a game yet, so.
Haven't drawn a game yet either.
Yeah.
All right. Getting the second to last game, and this one will be pretty unanimous. Liverpool against Aston Villa. Yes, Aston Villa have been and just for a quick second. I think we should all give a shout out to Aston Villa. To be honest with you, I've been very impressed with the way they've started their season. Whether yet again it's been Jack Grealish doing everything for them, but Aston Villa for me they've kind of surprised me. I think they've had a really good start to the season. So shout out to them, props to them. But and I think it's really easy, really simple. What I think is going to happen. They're going to go to Anfield. They're gonna get absolutely stomped on, and then Liverpool are gonna send it back to where they came from. So yeah, I think Liverpool wins this game every single day of the week. Carson, moving to you.
I think it's gonna be a clear Liverpool win. I think Jack Grealish will have a decent game. He might score, but I think Liverpool are just too good. They build from the back. Their defense is outstanding. Their midfield is top class. And then as soon as you get it to the forwards, there's really not much you can do in stopping them. So I think it's going to be a clear and decisive win for Liverpool.
Yeah, Carson just again, saying that quite perfectly. To get through this game, Sears, Andre, and Jose, are you all thinking of just a Liverpool win?
Yeah, for sure.
Me too. Probably, I'd say like between 3-0, 5-0.
And Andre?
Liverpool. One word. That's it. Liverpool.
All right. And then for the last game, all I will say is that 4 people on this call will come in head to head and will clash against each other against this weekend. I, of course, will have my amazing co-host Jose and Carson reading with me, against Andre. It is Manchester United against Tottenham Hotspur, and speaking of that, you will see later this week a little preview to that game exclusively. For me, I think both these sides, and again, I'll be as non-biased as possible. I know Andre is waiting, ready to capitalize on anything that might not seem right. Anyways, that's what I'm saying. I think both these sides they've just proved they're so inconsistent for me. I do not think I have zero confidence in Manchester United whatsoever in terms of getting a win. They've just against two. And again, with all due respect to Palace and Brighton, they're not world beaters. They're really not. And Tottenham's just clear and above, both of those two teams, as good as they've been at the start of the season. And for me, I think this is going to end in a draw. Carson, moving to you.
I think if Solskjaer puts out the right lineup with Bailly instead of Lindelof at the back, I think if Wan-Bissaka has a good game. If De Gea holds up well, and if our forwards strike well against the top 6 clubs, then I think this will be a tough game. I definitely respect the Spurs side. They are not to be messed with.
Me too.
They are very, very dangerous. I do think that United edge this one maybe 1-0, 2-1. But I definitely think it'll be a very exciting game, and Tottenham are not to be messed with. So.
All right. Very simple, straightforward from Carson. Andre, do you think your side will take it to us on Sunday, and do you think you guys will take the W over us?
There's certainly some worries. I don't know if you guys knew, but Son is out with a hamstring injury for 2 months, so he won't be available for the match.
Injured again.
Yeah. So Bergwijn has been less than impressive, but he really needs to find his form now because I'm pretty sure he'll start that match unless we start Lamela or something. But I'm hoping Bergwijn can find his form. He did it last time when he put Maguire on skates. I'm hoping that defensively we can stay focused and solid enough, similar to Newcastle, and maybe not give away any pens to you guys, and if that If we keep our game plan, we can win. But United will trouble us on like a Rashford, Martial, the quality in those two, Fernandez, obviously. Then yeah, that's anything can happen. Anything can happen.
And I think everything he says, especially seeing that we're coming into conflict this weekend, I think that's, I think everything he said was, almost perfectly spot on. The thing about Bergwijn, to be honest with you, I do feel a bit for Bergwijn. I thought when he was brought in, I thought, okay, you know what, this guy's going to be starting every week. He's got to be starting. He's clearly, 8 times better than Lucas Moura. In my opinion, I personally think I like Steven Bergwijn better than Lucas Moura. Other Spurs fans may have their opinions and whatnot. And I think that just really comes down to just, Jose Mourinho, who he prefers. And speaking of Jose Mourinho, him and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer have been having a go indirectly at each other in the press. And of course, as Jose Mourinho always does, he always finds his way to get back even with that other person, or to just stay ahead of them.
Yeah, and actually, Mourinho has actually said that he's taking it. He's basically conceding the EFL Cup match against Chelsea prior to in the match against you guys. He says he's giving that up. So when you consider that, you're probably going to play a weak spot against Chelsea, and we'll see the likes of Indom Bad Boy in the midfield against you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he's desperate to get a win.
Jose Mourinho's a new bestie, Mr. Tanguy. It's good to see them love each other once again. Sirius, moving to you. I know you love both of these clubs with all your heart, so very much. But the question is, which club would you? Two questions: which club would you love to see more win? And second of all, tell me what you're thinking, man, for this game.
I'd like Man U to win because, as always, Arsenal fan, I can't be happy if Tottenham win. Correct me, I have a question for Andre. Don't you guys have a Europa League playoff, if I'm wrong, on Thursday?
I think we do.
It's part of the crazy fixture. One thing, it is at home though. It's our first Europa League playoff that is at home.
Okay. So unlike Andre, I'm not gonna try to be biased here, but Man U have a game against Chelsea. Tottenham have a game against Chelsea. They said, I guess they said that he's not going to play their strongest lineup, but they also have a game on Thursday, and now they're playing Sunday. That's a lot. I think
it's a lot.
Will win because of this, but both teams are they're decent sides. I'll say that for sure. They're both up there with each other, so we'll see what happens. I'm going for Man U though.
Yeah, and I think Sirius points out makes a brilliant point there. And Tottenham have 2 games midweek. I think so. I think you played twice this week, whereas Manchester United played just 1 game against Brighton. And lastly, Jose, moving to you, what are you thinking about this game? Do you think we'll play well? And do you think Ole will put out the right personnel? And I just want to say, speaking of the right personnel, also, if Lindelof and Maguire start, I just already know it's over. As much as I like both of them, it's going to be over because there's just no pace, and their pace will just rip us apart. What are you thinking, Jose?
Yeah, I think it'll be a win for us, but I think we're gonna have to get everything right. Solskjaer's gonna have to get everything right. The players are gonna have to turn up. I think it's gonna have a lot to do with the fact that we're coming out of a weekend feeling like we got lucky with a win, while Tottenham came out of the weekend feeling like they were hard done by, and I think rightly so. But I'm also, like you said, Davis, I'm excited to see Mourinho and Solskjaer on the touchline. Hopefully, we get some great touchline antics from both of them.
Yeah, I'm hoping for the same thing. Whether this evolves to be just like the lovely friendship between Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte when he was at Chelsea, Mourinho was at United, and I know those two loved each other very, very much. And no, I'm joking. They were always having to go at each other in the press. And for me, when I look at this game, as much as we all banter Spurs, and I think rightfully so, as much as we all banter Spurs, we call them the 4th best team in North London. Bayern Munich. They're definitely not a side to be messed with. They're really not. And I think this season, and especially with the signings they brought in, I have to say, Højbjerg for me, I can definitely see the potential. I know he's young. I know he's not a young kid, and I know people are saying, "Oh, Davis, he's not young. He's not young." But just the potential of what he can do for that Spurs side, I think he holds a lot of good potential. And especially personally for me, I'm pissed off about Serge Reguilon. I think that's going to be a great addition to that team. Getting Bale back on loan, whether he performs and stays fit, or whether we're going to see the same old Gareth Bale in the medical room for 90% of that time at Spurs. And then of course Matt Doherty, brought in from Wolves. I think for me, biggest issue with him, it will be adjusting to Jose's tactics, whether Andre thinks he has or not, or whatnot. But yeah, and that's what I think for the most part. No, it's not unanimous. No, I won't say that. But yeah, some of us think Man United win. Of course, Andre. Being Andre, I think Tottenham will win. And some of us think it will be a Man United win. And I don't. And just finishing off, I think it will be a hard, fought-out draw. Well, anyways, we've reached the end of our show, and I thank everybody for watching. And something for our viewers, if you have any suggestions for like different kinds of videos or video topics, or you have any questions, feel free to leave them below, a link in the description, or just DM them to us on Instagram at PL Primetime. As we're really trying to be one for the viewers, and we really like to build off what we have right now. Our podcast is slowly growing, and I think everybody here, and I know my host would certainly appreciate it, and as well as Carson being a follower of our show, and coming from me as my host, I'm not saying this just to get the likes or the clicks or the views and all that. If you really have been enjoying our podcast, smash a like on this video, and smash a like on all the others. Subscribe and follow us. And we thank you again, and we'll see you later this week for the specific Tottenham versus Manchester United preview. Thank you to everyone for watching, wherever you are in the world, whether it's day, night, whatever. Have a good day /night, and we'll see you soon. Peace.